And with that, I think Kevin starts us off this week, folks. I hope you can hear that. I hope you can hear me. Didn't have time to crack on headphones. Ow, there's some nails going on. But like I've said in previous episodes, Kevin calls action whenever she decides to join us. So, hey, this is the best it's happened yet. It's episode 18. And, oh, Kevin, you can't stand on my microphone. Oh, you're going to break a leg. Welcome to episode 18 of the Rick Chappell podcast. He once again doesn't have headphones on. Don't let there be mountains of reverb this time. Please say I captured all that. Yes, with somewhat pristine audio. We're using the old microphone for those who have watched all of the shows. There's a couple of you, I know. And I know absolutely nobody cares which microphone I use because you can make anything sound good. As always, lately, we started with Kevin and no guitar. But this week, oh, bonk. We're playing, of course it had to be, my 80s Explorer. I've had it on the show before. The time in question, let's make sure you can hear it. Yeah, dude, everything is plugged in as far as I know. Oh, deep breath. I feel like I am missing something, though. There we go. What a heavy metal riff to play on this all black guitar. This thing, oh my God, we will talk about it more later. Not the whole show is about guitars, but of course, it's mostly about guitars, man. Come on. This thing's fantastic. I'm in tune at least, right? Yeah, we did plan ahead that much. Let's crack right into it, folks. How you been? How you doing? I'm Rick for the new ones here. Last week, real quick off the bat, we're celebrating the small victories and the small numbers here still because, you know, fresh podcast, he says his headphones are messing with his hairdo. Don't be self-conscious. Just ignore the big picture of yourself right next to the lens. The lens is your friend. Your friends are in there. Anyways, last week we hit 67 people versus our regular 30. So, hey, it's like double. We're growing, folks. That said, not a ton of comments last week, but we do have a couple here. Every week to start things off, I read comments. Right now I'm reading them across my channel because I don't have, like I said, that many per week. But if you leave a comment on the podcast, I will definitely read it next week. And if you leave a comment on one of my other videos, good luck. You're in for this one now, too. So let's just go right into it. 6 days ago. Most of these comments lately are on my Tone Master Pro review, which is a guitar processor, like amp simulator thing. And I borrowed it from work for a long weekend. And it's pretty good. It has a lot of features in it. The only standout, not great thing that I need to share is that it has no bass. Like, not a lot of bass sounds. I don't mean the frequency. I mean for, like, bass guitar. So it's a guitar amp system, to be fair. But all the other ones do tons of bass sounds too, so you can, you know, just record a whole bunch of stuff with it. It's a fun way to use gear. But that could be one update away, in all fairness. I'm not sure what tuning I'm going to keep this guitar in, but we'll talk about that later. And because of that, I'm not sure what tuning it's in right now. I think it's just standard. We're chill. Anyways, back to the comment. The Lamb of God tone you created was on point. Why, thank you, sir. I enjoy that band. I would be running the 4-cable method. Oh, this is a very long, very technical comment that, to be honest, we don't have time to get into all of it. But I have read this one before because I prepared myself. What you're describing should work. I'll say that much. And yeah, everything you said, like literally down to the order of your effects and everything, that's exactly it. And I think good luck trying to get it to sound exactly the same between like digital and analog, but I'm sure you can get it close enough that it'll be great. So yeah, good idea, man. What else? Also the Tone Master Pro, it is great. Love mine. Of course you do. gear you have is the best gear. That's how it works. This one's a good one. You don't sound Canadian, but that's all right. I'm sure I do a little bit. Where I live in Canada is literally a stone's throw from the border. So I'm like as South Canadian as it gets, for better or worse, I guess. We don't call ourselves that. Maybe somebody else does that I don't know about. I also don't know if this guitar is intonated. Stop talking about that part. I'm leaning towards it's not. But more about that comment. I played through one of these for the first time today. I really like it, but a lot of tweaking the presets is necessary. Yeah. I have noticed with that thing, with the presets, because like we still have it at my work. I work at a guitar store. Like I said, I borrowed it, made a video, brought it back. And then I set it up there with like some speakers and stuff so customers can come in and play it because it's cool new gear to demo, you know? And I've played on it too at work, obviously, because I work at a guitar store. It's fun to play guitar at work. But yeah, the presets that you find in it that you like, if you dig in a little bit, I've found my favorite trick so far, real quick, is just to move the microphone closer to the speaker cone in each one, or like switch it for 57 or something. Like changing the mic out can immediately give me usually what I'm after in those things. You can probably do a similar thing by, you know, messing with the master EQ, but I'd be more hesitant to do that because that won't sound great on all the presets, and doing it on a preset by preset, more tedious basis will probably just yield you a more useful unit by the time you're done all that. And there's my advice for the Fender Tone Master Pro. Didn't ask. And then we have our weekly Nicole comment. This time it's two because the first one just says, "Where Kevin at?" Kevin made an appearance last week. I believe last week she just played in the corner, which is really cute. But this time was way better. I mean, come on. It's always better to get it off the hop. But then, of course, we have an actual comment. Also, remember when you were going to come for dinner, but I forgot you like didn't have many teeth from your accident, so I was going to blend your steak for you. I'm happy you have teeth now. So am I. That was a summer. We'll talk about the car accident in a whole dedicated episode, I'm sure, one day. I have a whole plan for that, maybe. But for those that don't know, I was in a massive car accident. Knocked out a bunch of teeth is one of the things that happen, you know. I need to tune that string. Sorry, that's driving me absolutely insane. But yeah, and I was gonna go over to her and her husband's place there, but didn't happen for whatever reason. I think I wasn't even driving at that point yet. It was like right after, you know. Friends try to get you out of the house right away, which is always sweet. But after something huge, sometimes you need to like sit on your broken bones, you know. But yeah, I'm sure you would have blended up the steak and it would have been, I was going to say delicious, but I don't believe that. I'm sure it would have been sweet and kind. And then I did come over for a dinner once I had some chompers, I'm pretty sure. Not all of my teeth are fake either, by the way. Like I had some exposed nerves on some of my teeth, which is so disgusting and cringy to say. But so I have a lot of caps over my real teeth that are now, you know, teeth sized. And then all my bottom four teeth are not real. There's bolts in my skull and the whole 9 yards, and I got a dental system. Woot. But it's bolted in there for at least a decade now, is what they told me. Let's hope they are right. We're gonna tune this guitar a little bit more because, as always, Kevin called action, and because of that, I wasn't actually prepared. So for those who've watched all the weeks, you know I try to write down 10 things to talk about every week. I usually have about 5. This week we made it to 7. So, hey, we're getting there. It's getting better every week, right? I vow eventually to stop making you watch me tune. Usually I would play an Evertune guitar on this show because of the guitars I own. I have 3 Evertune guitars and they're lovely. And they're guaranteed to be in tune every time, all the time. It's the best invention ever. So I can like focus on things like doing a podcast and eventually including a bunch of synthesizer stuff. I fell in love with that idea last week. I realized last week you couldn't hear the synthesizer. It was much louder in my headphones. I have the same audio in my headphones that you have right now. I don't record these with a way to like remix them later. It's what you see is what you get. We'll do it live, you know? And for better or worse, by the way, it makes the workflow very simple, but like the week that it had way too much reverb for 20 minutes or whatever it was, couldn't fix it. That's just how it was, you know? You can tell it is by the way it is. But some weeks it just all goes really smooth. I promise. And by episode 18, we may get there. Let's add some more delay in there. Speaking of effects that I can hear in my headphones, but you can't hear, that just means they're really quiet. Because I guess my voice is cranked up. I'm trying, man. We're learning. You're seeing the work in progress. Like how I don't like the reflection of my light in my guitar. Oh, don't get into the nitty-gritty. Go to the things we have written down. The one of them we're going to start with is I do have a plan, by the way, to go back to the fact that we hit, like 70 people last week so far. Which isn't a record, but hey, it's more than the week before, so small victories. When this podcast gets to the point where it's hitting like 100 consistent, which isn't tons, but like I'm talking 2 weeks in a row of 100 views in the 7 days before the next episode. You catch my drift? I have a cover song ready to roll now that this guitar is set up the way it is. And I'm super stoked for it, but I've decided to release it when we hit that milestone, or my channel hits 500 subscribers finally, which we're on track to do, by the way. Probably by the end of the year. We're at 468, man. That's not far away from 500. And I hope to look back on these videos and laugh when we hit much higher numbers than that, because the algorithm is kinder when you have some momentum. So hey, let's get momentum, folks. I hear momentum is best gained by TikToking these days. But I downloaded it a few weeks ago, and I posted a bunch of stuff like once a day for, like the way you're supposed to do it, TikTok overlords. And a video of Kevin got like 20,000 views. So hey, it's just social media. It's another social media. But then I didn't do it for like a week and a half because I just didn't do it. But hey, we'll get around to it. I got a record to make. I got a Kevin to take care of. I have this guitar that I have finally made all black. And once again, we'll talk about that later. Let's start going through our real list here. We were talking about the cover song. We just did that. We did comments. Woot. We'll do more next week, so leave another one. Come on, guys. Now, I was going to shout this out right at the beginning, so I guaranteed he saw it, but sorry, you have to sit through 13 minutes to see your shout-out, Rod. You came into work today, and you're talking to me about the podcast, and that's cool. It's really neat. I forget that I do this, kind of, when I'm at work. You zone out, you zone into your thing. But someone was like, oh, hey, watch the last one, it was good. And I was like, oh, hey, thanks. I have to do one tonight. Wow. It was a good reminder. So thanks, buddy. And I have one good work story to tell. I have one frustrating work story to tell and one good work story to tell this week. The good one is when you sell somebody their first guitar, always is great. So that's what I did this week. It was a 15-year-old girl and her mother came in, and a baby under the arm of the mother. It was great. And they grabbed, an amp and a guitar, a kit to start to play. Some variety picks, the fixins. And even just the way she walked in the store was great. She came in like the side door and came right up to the counter and was like, hey, do you have electric guitars? And I was like, turn around. Because she walked right past the wall of electric. Like, we have 100, yes, of course we do. So it was hilarious. And she had a good sense of humor. So I wasn't like, turn around. I was like, hey, turn around. It was great. And she was really excited to start playing guitar. And kids' excitement is like contagious, man. And then the mom was super excited on her behalf. It was just a very sweet family, And she was paying for it herself, which was super cool. She works at McDonald's and is doing her thing. Awesome. Good for her. But what did she get? I'll tell you all the details. She got a Kramer Beretta in blue, which is the guitar I would have bought that day if I was buying my first guitar. So way to listen to advice. And a Fender Mustang LT25, which once again, it's the best amp in the price range, in my opinion. And a great buy this holiday season. ding. But this is not a sponsored thing or a commercial. If you don't chew Big Red, then fuck you. I hope you got my Talladega Nights reference. But back to our story of family friendliness. They got the stuff, and then what else happened? Then they. What was the funny part? Oh, the fun part was when somebody's coming in to buy the first guitar, they don't know how to play guitar. So when you want to show them an amp, it's no use to be like, here, grab a guitar, plug into it. How's it sound? And they go. And you're like, oh, this amp sounds like shit, eh? So what I usually do is I'll grab whatever guitar they're looking at. Like, this is the one you're going to buy, for example. Here it is. And I'll plug it into, like, the Fender Mustang LT25 and go, hey, here's the dial that changes the sound. Like, we'll use a digital amp of any kind, of Line 6 Spider, Line 6 Catalyst, Marshall Code. You know, all of these great entry-level amps. And I'll be like, here's the master dial to change the presets. I'll play guitar, you change presets. And if they go on like a clean sound, we'll do Green Day or in this case it was Taylor Swift, because this is a 15-year-old girl we're dealing with, don't forget. And then if they go to a distorted sound, you can or play the riffs that they're going to learn how to play in the next 3 to 6 months. And, it basically just makes the gear sell itself when you can, if they want to hear Van Halen, being able to play guitar is a great asset to working in a guitar store, is what I'm trying to say. But it was super fun. And then she broke a string and came in, I think, the following day when I was off work and got it fixed. Oh, hello, cat. That was a violent sound that came from the other room. That's the good work story. We'll get to the other work story later. I'm finally just going to talk about the Black Explorer because, come on. I have a serious history with Black Explorers, or with good Explorers in general. And the last time I had this guitar on the show was episode, I want to say, we can find it here. I have the ability. It was early. It was when I had a roommate. And my roommate walked in during the episode because this was their room, to be fair. It was episode 2. We're talking OG. Yeah. I think in episode 2, I constantly call it episode 3. It was a very confusing time, at the start of this thing. I only started this back in May, basically. So, hey, we're rocking through. Anyways, back to the Explorers. I still kind of want to change the pickups in this thing, but these ones are really good. Before I bought this guitar, I had a plan to change the pickups, and then I got it, and I was like, Deb, I might not, they're great. But more about it. This is one of the brand new 80s Explorers. So it's a new Gibson that is styled after sort of like their 1984-esque guitar. The internet's been kind of unkind and said that, this knob's in the wrong millimeter, so it's not a real 84 Explorer. I don't care. It's a Gibson Explorer in black with no pickguard. That has been a checklist of mine for basically my lifetime so far. So I have loved Gibson Explorers ever since I played the first one I ever did. And it's no wonder, because the first Explorer I ever played was owned by my first girlfriend's dad. I've always attracted musical things into my life, apparently. He was a roadie, I think, or something, back in the day. So we had a great gear collection of all kinds of cool stuff. We're talking a Marshall stack that used to belong to Bryan Adams. And, we're not talking your typical, I'm 13 and everything's owned by a celebrity. No, this guy could back it up. This was real. It was an awesome time. But the first Gibson Explorer I ever played was his, and it was in 1958. I played an OG Gibson Explorer that was as original as they come. He joked that it was the only thing not original was the strings, but I think he said it was only the high E string. This thing was mint. It was kept in its case, hidden in their house. It's nowadays it's a guitar that's worth a lot of money, and at that point it was already a guitar that was one of the more valuable ones, I think, in the world, honestly, for a mass-produced, not something owned by Jimmy Page. Hey, Kevin's in. See? That's where she's usually been hanging out lately. I tried to put a lamp right above where I thought she'd be, because a black kitten in a dark room is hard to light. But no, she doesn't go there. But that was the first Gibson Explorer I ever played, or like Explorer-shaped guitar even. I had been playing guitar for probably 4 years at that point, 3 or 4. Wasn't great, but I could play it enough to like appreciate it, And oh, what a guitar. I will never own a 1958 Explorer because of said costs, but I got to play one. After that, the next Explorer I played was... Or not played, I'll tell you about everyone I ever played. The next one I owned by accident. It was shipped to me. I ordered an Epiphone 1980s spec Explorer, their 84 model, which isn't available anymore, I don't think. I ordered it on Sweetwater back in the day. And it came white. And I was like, this is a great guitar, guys, but... So I sent it back after like 2 weeks, I think, because I was like, it's really good. Like, I'm very picky. And, but eventually I was just like, no, I want the black one. That's the thing I decided on. So I sent it back, got a black one, and it was so good. It was so good. I was glad I made the trade for the color. It was even a better playing guitar. It had EMGs in it and everything. Like, this thing was rad. It was even all black, bridge and tuners and all. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. And I played it in gigs. I played it, the only time I was ever in a band that really did a whole lot of shows was like right out of high school sort of vibe. We did a thing with a singer I had worked with a couple times, and then like a piano player and a drummer who was my cousin, and I think the bass player was the piano player's cousin, small town vibes. And we played out in Vancouver a couple times, and that was always a great time. We won some contests and did the crazy thing that apparently you can do sometimes, which is make money playing music for a summer. And I'm talking like we won some contests and people made some bank. So when the band broke up, our singer went to Thailand, let's put it that way. Just on a vacation, but what a trip. I bought a Mesa Boogie and joined another band. But I played that Epiphone Explorer in both bands there. Like I said, it was a guitar I gigged a lot. And then it got stolen. My house got broken into. I got, I think, 2 or 3 guitars stolen. My Les Paul, actually, I found it in my front yard. So they stole it and then gave it back. Or dropped it on their way, Had a ding in it, and I was like, it's its first ding, that hurts. But, hey, character. And I'm glad I still have it. But the Explorer I lost. Insurance replaced, because that's how it works. But the one I got sucked. Just being honest, calling it like it is. Like I said, I was so hesitant to even send the white one I didn't want back that when I got one that played great, I was like, I'm never letting go of this thing. And you're not always in charge. So that's a terrifying thought. And yeah. After that, I got the one from insurance, and I just didn't play it that much. I was like, well, at least I have one, and I have other guitars that I was kind of more into at the time. But I was really just disappointed in the one I got. I ended up even like sanding the neck, because the problem with it, frankly, was that the finish on the neck was uneven. I could feel like a bulge in it, and I was pretty sure it was in the finish, not the wood. So once I sanded the neck down, it actually played pretty good. But then I still had my heart set on like it's either like an ESP in all black or a Gibson in all black. The Epiphone was just like, I have one Epiphone in my collection. It's the first decent guitar I ever got. It's that Bullseye Les Paul back there. It's, for all intents and purposes, my first guitar. So I will keep that thing forever. Again, fingers crossed. But, yeah, it's not even working right now. Like, the wiring's all messed up. You usually tend to modify your first guitars, and it doesn't always go great. But, yeah, so I eventually sold that Epiphone after I had already sort of gotten its replacement in, which was a Edwards, a 2014 Edwards EX125, which, for those that don't know, Edwards is ESP's made in China line for the most part. There's a lot of rumors about where they're made, but I think it's Indonesia or China. Mine felt Indonesian, which sounds pretentious to say, but if you've played enough guitars, like my Dean back there and that Solar, there are Korean and Indonesian between the two of them. And I think there's only 1 or 2 factories, frankly, so they just have a similar sort of carve of things, and you can notice that. Versus in China, there are many factories, so there's terrific ones and there's terrible ones, just like anywhere else, but their exports are so much higher that, hey, they get a bad rap. Anyways, so I got the Edwards, which was made in China, and it was amazing. It played so good. It finally scratched the itch of the one that was stolen, you know? I was finally sort of over it. But that said, I was like, okay, it's made in China, but it's really good. It's made in China, but it's really good. Like I said, they get a bad rap, but they make great guitars sometimes too. But working at a music store, I was always like, well, you know, my heart is still set on, you know, a Gibson or an ESP. The ESPs have gotten to be the point to where they're like $8,000 to $10,000. I will never own one. That's how it goes. I'm sorry. But I was like, well, maybe Gibson will make one. That's always an option. There was sort of rumors they were going to do it. And I was like, hey, we're the Gibson dealer for Canada, by the way. To everybody who would listen, I was like, if this guitar becomes available, something with this specs, a no pickguard Black Explorer, I will buy it. If it's a limited model and it's $10,000, I will fucking buy it. If it's $800, you know what I mean? Like, I will sell a kidney. I will finance my house. I will buy this guitar. I don't even have a house, but you catch my drift. So one day I got an email, and it was this thing that had been announced privately, you know, to the company. And I was like, yup, bang, check, done. And it wasn't $10,000. It's actually, I will say reasonable, but you can Google how much it is, and it doesn't seem reasonable for a guitarist to most people. But for a made in USA Gibson, in my opinion, it was a reasonable price, and I have a staff discount, so it was reasonable for sure. And I got it, and it's so good. I already sold my Edwards before I bought this just to fund this, so I had that same anxiety of, is it really going to be better? You know, like I did. I got really lucky with that Edwards. It played great. But, man, this thing was great right out of the box. Like I said, the pickups are a 80s tribute humbucker, they're called, from Gibson. They're a new thing. And I wasn't sure. I was planning, and still kind of am planning, of putting Fishmans in this just to make it an active, super heavy metal guitar. But I want to try the Willie Adler set, not my usual like Moderns or the Devin Townsend set I have in other guitars. The whole point of having different guitars is to have a variety, you know, that's the vibe. But part of that variety might be a heavy metal chugga-chug guitar with passive pickups, because these are really, really good. So, yeah, I might be done modding it. I might not. Part of why I wanted a Black Explorer all this time was I have like a heavy metal project I think I've chatted about a few times here that's not coming out anytime soon. I've learned to work on it slowly to make it much better and healthier. But we're getting there with it. We're checking. But this guitar is a big part of that. Like, having a Black Explorer was always a big thing for me. I'm a little bit picky about what instruments I use on the recordings. Not when I'm just like writing a demo or sitting around in the apartment and want to play some guitar. But I try to make a little bit of an event out of recording my music, you know, when I want to do a CD or something, like I'm currently been working on for a little while this year. So I like, put fresh strings on the guitar as a way to make it sound the best. You know what I mean? Like you plan ahead. And if you plan ahead to do a batch of songs, you can sort of plan which guitars you're going to use. You catch my drift. You know, I'm just picky about making things as best as I can. That's the point. And having one of these with a great sound and everything, and being all black, by the way, I forgot to mention, these ship with chrome hardware, and I finally swapped it, which is why it's back on the show. We'll talk more about that later. But that should be the caption of this week's episode. We'll talk about that later. Having this guitar is a big part of the record, is what I'm trying to say. The album will be called Silver Tree. It's 20% done. You know, like I said, I've been picking away. It has guest appearances. It's awesome. It's really brutally heavy metal. And the album I'm working on right now is not. So I haven't worked on it for months now, but hey, I will now that I got this thing. And that wraps up where we're at with the Black Explorer. Oh, let's talk about the hardware real quick. The tuners, there's funny stories about both. The tuners I got from a guy on Facebook that I basically scammed into them, unfortunately, but then I paid for them, so I didn't actually scam them. But we were just going to trade tuners. I was going to give him the chrome ones, he was going to give me the black ones, and then I went to ship them. And they were going to charge me way too much money to ship a small package of tuners to the United States. So I was like, hey, dude, can I just buy them now that you've already said, like, I already had them. I could have just disappeared, you know what I mean? But we didn't. We're a good human being. Shout out to him for being so trusting, though, too. The internet is a scary place. But they don't quite fit. Like, they do, but I don't know if you can see. They're technically all crooked. They're all perfectly straight to each other, which is what matters. But the hole doesn't quite line up. And instead of drilling it, I was like, they fit fine still. Like, it looks great. They latch in. They're lockers. They're perfect. I'll just put them on a 1 millimeter angle, all of them. So I like it. And then the bridge, because we're the only dealer for certain things in Canada for the most part, it's not a Gibson bridge, but it's a Gibson style, in full drop-in of perfect quality. It took me like 2 months to get because of shipping schedules and buying schedules and bulk ordering of things. But, it's great. The next time you see it, I may have top-wrapped this thing to some people's horror. But I just have to make sure that the geometry will work, because if I do it the first time, it'll leave a bite mark on all the saddles. Or on the saddle, sorry, the tailpiece. And I don't mind that if I keep top wrapping it, but if turns out you can't do it because of the angles of the guitar, I will regret having those little bite marks. So we got to do a little bit of science, I've never played guitar like that. Like with a 3-finger tapped chord. But hey, there's my humble brag that I got an idea and I tried it and it worked. That's most of how I play guitar, honestly. People have asked me like what my creative process is. And sometimes it's just being like, hey, I'll hold a chord and it doesn't always sound good. But that time a couple seconds ago did. What else are we talking about this week? Oh, we'll tell the not great work story now, which isn't bad. The not great work story, the monster at the end of this book, is just that it's the middle of November and we decorated for Christmas. I don't hate Christmas, but I don't love Christmas, and I don't love Christmas in November. Let's put it that way. I definitely don't like it at this point. But you work in retail, this is part of the evil, We did a great job. Go team. There's a couple great displays and like 3 trees. We did good. But why is it Christmas in November? Why? Tell me, Grinch. I don't know. That's the whole story, basically. I did want to drop that because I have been watching, or just not been watching, been doing Christmas things, and we've said the word Christmas out loud. The algorithms have started to serve me Christmas things, also because it's halfway through November and everybody's on consumer duty. But the one great Christmas thing I enjoy every week, not every week, wow, every year, at least once a year, maybe once in November, once in December even, it's that good, isn't a movie, isn't a play, isn't a book, isn't a meal. It is a video and a song by Tim Minchin. It's called White Wine in the Sun, and it popped up on like a recommended, and I was like, oh, I love that. I'll watch that. And it made me cry because it's so good, man. I am such a baby, and you can get me with that kind of stuff. Not all the time, because when it happens, I'm definitely like, I'm not doing it for show. But oh man, sometimes that guy's got a key right to it. That's for sure. Tim Minchin's a comedian from Australia. And he was on a couple of TV shows and whatnot. He's made Broadway shows now. He became incredibly successful. The song I'm talking about, the video I'm talking about, is from an early stand-up special of his. Early on, he would just do stand up with a piano and play amazing songs because he's an amazing piano player. He ended up performing with orchestras and all this stuff. But I liked him before that. I liked him way back when I first saw the special that had White Wine in the Sun in it, and it was amazing. And then I was kind of lucky that was in the time period where he was getting quite popular and on the way up, you could say. He's still up there. But yeah, it was cool to see him succeed and go into he's in the TV show Californication, which is the reason I ever watched the show Californication. And I fell in love with the show Californication, man. That is A1 HBO show. David Duchovny, Tim Minchin in one season. No other actor I could name except for Pamela Fryman, I think. I hope that's right. She's in so much stuff, the girl I'm thinking of. The one from Californication. She's also the director of a bunch of episodes of the show, which is why I'm hoping I'm getting her name right. If I'm not right, it's the actress who's also the director is the one I'm trying to mention. David Duchovny steals the show most of the time, but the actress who plays Karen is also the girl from, it's The Truman Show. She plays like Truman's love in that show, and then she does an amazing job playing a mom in Californication. It's just one of those shows where like it descends into complete and utter chaos, and there's moments of ridiculousness, but it has a great heart to it too, which is the main thing I've always appreciated. And even like, I don't know, sometimes Futurama can pull that off amazingly. You know, those shows that are stupid funny at times, stupid funny at times, and then have a serious emotional thread, you know, that can weave you through some seasons. That's a key to getting me to subscribe. Just like I'm hoping Kevin over there is a key for you to subscribe, because she being cute. And check this out. I think we have, that's right, folks, the Kevin cam. It may be 37 minutes in, but hey, look at us. Come on. There we go. Hey, baby. She's growing. Here's your Kevin update for the week. She's wilding. She's keeping clean, you know, doing kitten things. Okay, back to me. She's not being A1 cute. She's being background cute. That is kind of an insult, by the way. Make myself laugh. That's half the battle. I do consider doing these live again. I used to live stream the podcast at one point, and then I also did like a songwriting challenge I've talked about week after week after week, which I do plan to bring back as well, which I say week after week after week after week. But we'll get there. We'll get there. There's also the synthesizer from last week. I think I mentioned earlier. It's going to come back. I didn't buy it yet. I was just trying it, and I fell in love with it, but couldn't afford it yet. So we will get it. She will be mine. Oh, yes, she will be mine. Maybe it'll be my Christmas present to myself. I think I can get it pretty soon. But wasn't this week, let's put it that way. And it won't be next week. Christmas. I'm my own Santa. Anyways, that concludes all I want to say about Christmas. We brought it up with a bow. Hey, we're getting there, man. Of the 7 things to talk about, the 40-minute mark is usually where I run out. And we're almost there. Pat on the back. Now's the time to talk about synthesizers. Oh, and this new MIDI controller. So, there was a synth here last week. Now there's a massive keyboard. Because it's a keyboard that has more buttons on it, man. Let's just give you a quick breakdown as to what it does. Quick breakdown as to what it does. What it do. No, we're making sense. Yeah, that sounded weird for some reason. What do I want to play you? Let's show you the main synth that I got it to do. I have a monophonic Arturia Micro Brute. And a monophonic synth is just fun, man, because no matter what you do with your hands, you make melodies. Like it's just an idea machine. But this is not what's making that sound. We're actually listening to that gray synthesizer up there right now. This new massive keyboard is a controller that I have somewhat painstakingly plugged into everything for the most part. And by that I mean that synthesizer, the drum machine back there, this synth here, and it will also be plugged into that other synth when it comes back. I'm planning ahead a little bit. See, it's just a music machine. But this is more than a keyboard. It also has drum pads on it, you can see over here. And that drum machine back there is all controlled from here as well. So I don't have to roll over there and hit record and try to play it and whatnot. I also run my drum machine through some guitar pedals because who doesn't? So the kick drum there this is the drum machine, I should also mention, is an Arturia, again, Drum Brute. It's amazing. The kick sound, that's kick 1, is running through a BBE Sonic Maximizer, just making it really thump. That kick drum and all those sounds are running through a Boss Metal Zone because it just makes that sound mean. Gives those claps a lo-fi awesome crunch. Makes the maraca sound like a maraca still. And makes the hat sound kind of neat. The snare, however, is a little too wet, but it's running through a Behringer reverb pedal with a gated preset. But if you hit the snare and the clap, you get a little bit of transient, a little bit of everything. And the rim of the snare is also going through that. Everything, just to get really nerdy for a second, is controlled with MIDI for all that, obviously. And audio-wise, those two are going into a mixer and then into an input into the computer just in mono because all of the sounds are mono. So there you go. Technically, if I couldn't ever separate those two sounds, but just don't do that. And then this keyboard is also plugged in to just my favorite keyboard currently is this S4. That's a pretty piano, man. Come on. And I can have my sustain pedal set up. It's a pretty good dynamic keyboard sound, I think. It's called hyper piano because it sounds insane. Sorry, I can't see the keys because of my other keyboard. This desk is large, but I fill it with things. I think I've done enough desk tours with the iPhone cam before. We don't have to do it again. But it's getting out of hand. I've recently taken my Axe effects off of this table and put it in the rack behind me because this is just an IKEA standing desk. So I'm like, weight is something to keep in consideration, you know? And just a pair of monitors and stands and a computer and then, interfaces. It all adds up. So I'm trying to keep it down. And now the camera's on here too, man. Not that that's a big chunky thing. The camera, by the way, for those ever curious, not many of you, is my old 5D Mark III. It is the nicest camera I've ever owned myself. I've had some crazy ones through work before. Like I've talked about my old jobs and whatnot. I did a bunch of videography stuff, so you get to play with fun cameras. But this is mine, and always has been. It's great. It's great. Let's update you on the record. How's Outlier coming along? I've been using this thing and just doing synthesizer things for the past month and a half now, basically. And I'm pretty much all but done. I have one song to do a little bit of synthesizing in the bridge. One song that I think is done, but I'm going to just double check the MIDI on some of the fake horns that I've programmed just to check them off the list. And then I have 3 more songs that I have a friend coming over to record violin on. And after that, it's just singing, which is the big one. I procrastinated long enough. It helps to have a great sounding track to sing on. So that's been my excuse. I had to do all the drums first. I had to do all the bass first. I had to do all the guitars first. But after doing all of the bippity boops and even putting a rough mix on it, you kind of have to sing it, bro. So we're at that point. My goal is to have all that done by the end of December. And then polish up the mix in January and then release it very soon after that. Maybe another month or 2 after that, But hey, we're on track. I did get delayed, but not for any good reason, just from essentially being lazy. This is the season for seasonal depression. It wasn't in August when I just laid around for no reason. But we're making progress, man. Back in Time was the last song I did with like some more synths, and I recorded a little bit more guitar. I check all these things off the list, like all the guitars are done. But obviously, like if I hear something wrong, I'll fix it still. And if that involves playing another guitar part, I'll just quickly play that riff again or whatever, right? We're not done yet. We can keep working. I also have one more song to do, some acoustic guitar and some, I think the guitar solo needs a touch up. But after that one is done, I'll sing, he says for the millionth time. The one that has the acoustic guitar and the guitar solo is the one that has Anneke van Giersbergen on it, which I think I've talked about too much already. It's not a surprise. I announced it back when I had the ability to. But it put a bunch of pressure on me. Like I said, not her fault. She's lovely. She had nothing to do with it. But in my head, I was like, people are going to hear this song. Oh, pressure's on, man. Do your best. In a lot of ways, I think this album has become a little bit of a tribute in its way to the Devin Townsend album, Addicted. It doesn't sound like Addicted. There's like one song, in my opinion, that kind of does. Maybe two if you count a weird one that I don't think people will notice. But anyways, the Devin Townsend influence has inherently crept into my new album. And she works with Devin Townsend a great deal. So just putting her voice on there immediately kind of made it sound a little bit like a Devin Townsend album, in my opinion. My humble opinion, I dare say. But putting her voice on there, I was like, oh, like I'm a fan of her, so I would go listen to this song. Therefore, I know some other people will. So like, do a good job, you know. But we will, you know. She already approved of it by liking it enough to sing on it, so it must be decent. And I really like the song. But I have built it up in my head too much, as one does. Wow, there's your honesty moment for this week's episode. But the album is coming along, is what I'm trying to say. I've got the microphone now I was dreaming of. I've got the microphone preamp that's going to sound amazing. We used it on the show for a couple weeks, and now I've rewired to use it to sing. And it's so good. It's the Rupert Neve, what's the name of it? Newton channel. And I have, finally, a real AKG C414. So it's going to sound nice. And I will inevitably use this Shure SM7B a bunch too, because it's great. And it's really great for having no bleed compared to a condenser microphone, of course. But yeah, there's your update on the album. Oh, we are at like the last couple minutes, and we haven't talked about the album of the week. This was supposed to be a segment. It was a fan-suggested segment. Fan, commenter, I want to say user, but you're not users. You're participators in the podcast, right? Or fans? I guess you're fans. It seems presumptuous to say. But there is an album of the week. Okay, we'll use the water jug to prop it up like last week, because that kind of worked. The album of this week seems obvious, honestly. It seems so obvious I shouldn't even say it. It's Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. I mean, come on. It's a white girl classic. It's a classic for everybody. I use white girl as a bad example for that one. It feels like a too easy pick is what I'm trying to say, because it's so great. Everybody loves it. Appetite for Destruction, for those living under a rock that don't know, is the debut Guns N' Roses album. Came out in sometime in the 80s, obviously. I should have done a little bit more research. I don't, but I do know some things about it, I swear. Where's just the, 87, copyright 87, there you go. Every week, for those that don't know, I'm trying to grab a record out of the collection and feature it. Not that it needs featuring. This is Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. Here's the best I can do about this album. Here's the stuff I know. Music history time. The cover, this is not the original cover. The original cover had a girl with boobs on it, so they weren't allowed to use it. This cover's awesome. It features skulls of all the band members. You got Slash, Axl, Izzy, Duff, and Steven, respectively. On the back, these same folks. Fun fact, the amplifier in the corner, see, you may notice something. In the corner, there is an amplifier just out of frame. It's sort of in the background. Just makes the background look pretty. It's that It's not the exact amplifier like theirs, but it is literally the same model, same year. That amplifier is a 1986 Mesa Boogie Mark III, and from everything I can see in this, that's a 1987 Mesa Boogie Mark III. I had that amplifier for years before I ever noticed it was on the cover of Appetite, or the back cover of Appetite for Destruction. What else can we say about the cover there? Everybody's drinking because everybody's drunk. It was the 80s. Track by track, Welcome to the Jungle. Need I say more? It's So Easy is like one of my favorite songs to sing. It's maybe lyrics that haven't aged well. They're rock and roll, you know, but it's all like this and it's this kind of voice. And then by the end, you get to go like, it's so easy, and do all like the screamy, awesome stuff. So it's a karaoke classic, if you catch my drift. I gotta stop saying that so much. Night Train was one of my favorite ones growing up. I remember hearing this album in our previously mentioned long car rides to and from people's houses. And Night Train was like always a banger. Out to Get Me, not one for me, honestly. No offense. Mr. Brownstone, 10 out of 10. Love that track. I've sung that one live with a friend of mine's jam band. Paradise City. I don't have to say anything about Paradise City. You know Paradise City. My Michelle, I did a cover of. Shout out to me. I did it during the quarantine funness. I found a drummer on Instagram who was good, and he shared a version of My Michelle with me that was drums only. I asked him to do a heavy metal song first, and he did it, and he did a great job, but it wasn't quite as perfect as I needed it to be to produce it to the sound I wanted it to be. But I was like, but you're good. Like, we should do something. So we did My Michelle, and Buddy Guy crushed it. I shouldn't be mean, but I'll be honest. The other person, not so much, maybe. There's a lot of guitar playing in that video, Honesty Hour here. That is not what you're seeing. I ended up playing a lot more guitars on it than I had planned. My goal was to sing, play bass, and mix it. That was as much effort as I wanted to put into it and make a video. But inevitably, I'm a real perfectionist when it comes to guitars. So I played some rhythm guitars and stuff underneath and whatnot. The guy plays all the solos. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to be a dink. But yeah, I played a lot of the rhythm guitars. And I did a lot of fun mixing. And I think the video turned out pretty good. I screamed it a lot. My Michelle was actually, from what I remember, was my dad's favorite song on this record. I think he had an ex that personified the song really well. And he took great pleasure in hearing me sing the song as a kid. And I still love singing it. Think About You is an awesome ballad. I didn't kind of discover that one until years ago. Like maybe when I was in high school. No. High school is when I was into this album, you know, the hits. I finally heard Think About You, I think, or didn't skip it, like 2018, 2019. Like, you know, a new song to me. Sweet Child O' Mine. The only thing I'm going to say is Step Brothers is a great movie, and you should go watch that. You're Crazy. I don't know that song. I don't listen to that one. Same with Anything Goes. These are the two not hits of the album. Sorry, album, you have two misses. Because it ends with Rocket Queen, and that's a banger. I actually, at one point, I had a drum kit in this room. An electric one. It's a condo. And the way I learned to play drums, I'm still not a drummer, but what I would do is just put on Appetite for Destruction and drum along. Because I think with Appetite for Destruction, let's still prop it up so it looks cool. With Appetite for Destruction, the songs are just perfect. Like, it's well-written songs. It's produced really well. It's recorded really well. It's a very unique sound to it. A lot of guitar players will try to get the sound of that album and just miss by a mile. And they think there's no bass, like there's no frequencies below like 300 hertz on the guitars on that album. The bass guitar is huge. The kick drum is huge. Like it's mixed differently than you think it is, guys, but it's so good. That's why we're talking about it this week. And I even got sidetracked just talking about guitar frequencies. Point being, if you ever want to do a cover of a Guns N' Roses song, go find the isolated tracks, because then you'll learn these things I'm talking about, like how to kind of get the bass tone a little closer. I did that song. Part of the reason I wanted to do that cover was the bass guitar in that video was a 1980 something Charvel that I no longer have. Like I said, I tend to buy and sell guitars a fair amount. I work at a store. But I wanted to do something with that bass, and I was like, let's do something 80s. let's do Guns N' Roses. It kind of looked like a Duff McKagan bass, so I was like, hell yeah. Oh, the other point I was trying to make was saying I drum along to this. Not that I'm a drummer, but I think if you want to play guitar, you could learn guitar by playing along to this album. If you want to learn bass, you could learn bass by playing along to this album. And if you want to learn drums, you could learn the drums by playing along to this album. It has a magic quality like that to it, I think. And yeah, there is my minutes on Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. I do have a few more things to mention about the 80s Explorer technically, but like, no, man, we ran through that. We're at 55 minutes and we've run out of things to talk about. These podcasts never go over an hour, but I do usually have to ad-lib something to get them as near the hour point as I want. And it wouldn't be the Rick Chappell podcast without some questionable material off the top of my head. So let's do that. Not that the rest of the show is usually planned out all that well and smoothly. I do want to recap this week and quickly say that intro better be really good because it was fun to participate in. That little blob of blackness is pretty cute, eh? This blob of blackness, the guitar, is not cute, but it's great, man. You know what? That's the thing we'll do. I'll show you a little bit of the chunk heavy metal thing this guitar is really used for, you know, at the end of the day. I think I have a good crunchy tone here. Sometimes we end on some metal for you. Let's use like a heavy Marshall sound. I thought I had one. Sorry, there's like hundreds of presets and things, and I try to keep them organized by keeping them far away from each other and in small groups. But then you forget where those groups are. 724, that's the preset I want. Not the heaviest preset you've ever heard. Oh, there we go. My volume is down. See, these pickups are great. We may not have to change a thing. What should I play you out on? Some 80s riffs on the 80s Explorer? No, we should play some things that are played by people who play 80s Explorers with more appropriate tones. There's like 3 big Gibson Explorer 80s guitars that look like this, guys, in my head. One of which, that's, what's the right tone for that one? Probably something like this. Yeah. One of them is the mighty Metallica frontman, James Hetfield. He's played all kinds of Explorers over the years. Same with the other guy I'm going to mention. But he had an old white Gibson that I always loved, and then he played black Japanese Explorers, which I always loved too. But I mentioned the Japanese ones being crazy expensive, and this one came up actually affordable in my life. So hey, rock and roll, James Hetfield riffs. We're in the wrong tuning to do Sad But True, and that tone is a little dark. That'll do. More Metallica riffs. I love this one. I don't know how to play it though. That would be Blackened for you folks. There's also the obvious, like... Helps when he plays on the notes, right? It's another great Metallica riff that the internet loves. I'm not warmed up, if you can't tell, to play Master of Puppets. You may notice this guitar has a small like ring sound in it. after I palm mute really hard. It's the strings behind the nut there. I usually put a piece of foam or something, but I just restrung this the other night when I put all the hardware on finally, and didn't do that. Hey, we cracked an hour. We didn't even play any Devin Townsend riffs. That's what was coming up next. And then I was going to play some Nickelback riffs, and sometimes the internet's not kind about that. So that is the end of episode 18 of the Rick Chappell podcast. Click on something else if it's on the screen. Like, comment, subscribe. If you comment, I'll read it next week, and I will see you in next week's video. Later.